Elliot,
Hello.
we are all over the place.
We are.
We were on time-ish last week, but we were gone for 2 weeks before that. And this week we're on a different day.
Yeah.
And for the future, we're on Wednesdays now.
Yeah. Yeah,
We are-
it's all over the place. Look, it's been a very busy period of my life.
Yeah. We have a lot going on here. Should we just get right into it?
Yeah, of course.
All right. We're gonna start with small to large today. We only have a little bit of time to actually record this. Our recording schedules this week were insane, so
Yeah.
we're gonna start with the smallest stories and make our way up to the largest story at the end, which I think will be fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna start by laughing at NIP. I think it's always a good place for us to start. As a team named Jano, which if you haven't heard of them, I wouldn't blame you. They're a team formed of ex-ENTS players, and no, I don't mean Snappy and DiJieHao and Hades. I mean like Alu and Ariel and X7.
Yeah. Which actually isn't that old of an ENTS team. It's like 4 years.
Apparently.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like ancient. It's like if we're talking ancient, Alu was on NIP, which makes it all the funnier.
But this is definitely a Swedish roster. It's very funny because you go click on the team on HLTV and it says World Development Ranking for Core Top 3, and it shows all of the ENTS roster because there's 3 ENTS members here.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I've never heard of Jano. So they beat NIP. They topped their group. They lost in the first elimination game at Elise and
Yeah.
Masters Espoo.
They didn't top their group. They knocked out NIP in last
They knocked
place.
out NIP. A tournament we normally would not care much about, but when it's at the expense of making fun of NIP, I feel like it's a good time to.
Oh yeah, no, it's always. I mean, any time you can make fun of NIP is worth it. Honestly, like again, we should remind everyone. They said they would be on top by 2025.
Yeah.
Multiple people told me if they built a Swedish roster, then they would have lots of fans, so it would be worth it even if they weren't any good. And I've not seen a single NIP fan in months. I think actually people are more ashamed of them now that they're Swedish than they were before. And I've now today been told they're not a Swedish roster, even though they are, because NIP said they're not a Swedish roster. But again, they also said they'd be on top in 2025. So why would we listen to anything NIP have to say?
So, I will give one caveat here: is they had a stand-in from the Young Ninja Squad.
Well, yeah.
But honestly, I don't even care that they had a stand-in.
No, I mean that
should
obviously is a fair caveat, but also.
No, you should be able to beat Jano.
But also, like, it's not like they're any good when he plays. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not like when Maxter plays, they're a top 10 team, and when he doesn't, they lose to Jano. Like, they're crap, and then when he doesn't play, there's just slightly more crap. Like, they're just a shit team. Like, they're just fucking. They're rubbish, and more importantly, they're fucking boring. Like, they've been mediocre to bad for at least 7 years.
Speaking of a shit team, let's talk about. So our next thing has to do with an old player, another old opper, i.e. Alu. Guardian is back in the server.
Yeah,
for
great.
One of the stupidest looking teams I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, great.
So it's BC.Game, which he used to be the coach for, and Karez, the Israeli player,
Anarkez, yeah.
Anarkez, has been benched. So that means Guardian will now play with Kashinito from Apex,
Yeah.
Lekro from
NIP.
North,
NIP, North.
just
NIP most famously. I would
grabbing the pinnacle
Fnatic
of his
as well.
career. I don't really know where we start.
say. NIP, I think. Maybe Fnatic.
Quartz, who was on Sinners for a while,
Yeah.
and Prime Taps, who was a big Academy player.
Yeah, great. Like, it's great. Old players should do this more often. This is something that would like basically never happens in real sports because players get old and then they basically just can't run anymore. Yeah. So like, you never just see like You never see Rodri get injured for Man City and Guardiola goes, "I'll have a go." Do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't happen. Like even though they were similar players, like Guardiola's like 55 now. He can't play in midfield, whereas Guardian can just stand in for a bit, and that's funny, and it's great.
It's really funny because in baseball, this is like a constant thing that goes on. So the Mets have a pitcher whose name was Bartolo Colon. He retired in 2017. His jersey got retired last year. I was at the jersey retirement game, and last year when the Mets were absolute shit, every single fan was calling for Bartolo Colon to come back at the age of like 51 because he could still throw well enough to beat up the pitchers on the team at the moment.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Like a guy who's recently retired coming back, it does happen. I've seen that does happen in football.
8 years before.
Oh, 8 years. Okay,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
He had his jersey retirement. Like,
I thought you meant it was like 2 years.
The number was put up last year.
Because like I remember it happened with Paul Scholes in football, where he retired and then out of nowhere, like he was just named for a really important game in midfield for Man United. But that was like, he was like 38 or something. It wasn't that ridiculous. Like I'm talking about, you never see in football like a manager lose a player and just play himself, which is basically what's happening here. But you can do it in CS because A, the coaches are like 30 instead of 65.
Yeah, so here's...
And B, there's no physical requirement as such.
What do you think the average player age on this team is?
Lecro's like older than you think.
Lecro's like 31 years old.
Yeah, Lecro, I remember thinking that. Like, he was like 28 when he was on North, and I was like, you should be 22. Like, you should not be 28. Knowing that, it's probably like 24.6.
It's 27.1.
Wow, how old?
Guardian is 33 years old. The rest of the players are 23 and 24.
23, 22, 23, yeah. Wow.
22, yeah.
I guess I thought the others were younger than they were.
Yeah. Cachanito's been around for a little bit, so is Quartz. All right.
Yeah. What a strange team. I love it. Great.
Yeah. More strange teams. We have so many like weird, strange team things today.
Yeah.
Our favorite Asian RMR team, JiJieHao International, have made more moves. So we didn't cover it a couple weeks ago, but Issa had left the team, and now he is back. And they've signed the duo from Bulgarian squad Para of Aaron and Bibu. By the way, I love that his name is Aaron.
Yeah, I was just thought that.
No. His name is spelled Aron with an accent over the A, but his in-game name is
Aaron with 2 A's.
Yeah, Aaron with 2 A's, like it's spelled in America,
or Aaron as it's otherwise known,
which is excellent.
My favorite bit about this is if you click the HLTV thread about this, the top comment is just why. And honestly, that was going to be my thought. Why? Why?
I don't know why. I don't have a good reason. If I had to guess, it's because Mini is Lebanese, Issa is Jordanian, and Bibu is Iraqi, which would qualify them to play in the Asian RMR. Because
that clearly doesn't matter. We'll get onto that.
They had Kier be there for a bit.
Yeah, also mad. When you look at the team and it just says Kiebi bench, you're like, what happened? What's wrong with you?
This is my favorite team to check in on every couple months because their roster is just always something dumb.
It's just always ridiculous. Yeah. Who is Aaron? I've legitimately never heard of Aaron.
He played for Para for a little bit, but not enough for me to remember him.
No, I mean, look, I'm always glad to see a nation that is criminally underrepresented in Counter-Strike represented somehow. We haven't had a Hungarian player since Dead Fox. We haven't had a good one ever. So
yeah, I mean, this team has 5 countries that are not normally represented on the stage: Lebanon, Bulgaria, Jordan, Iraq, and Hungary.
That's bizarrely, Jordan and Bulgaria is probably the most successful of those, but Jordan's like second because of Issa.
And it's just because of the guy who's on the team.
Just because of Issa, yeah. Like Bulgaria, you've had like Cirque and Poison, who've both been pretty good at some stage.
Yeah.
Whereas like Hungary has had Dead Fox. Like, yeah, thanks.
Which we should talk. We didn't put this in the script, but I'm gonna put it right here. Bleed. This is a totally separate tangent, but we.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah.
We've been on a podcast like tunnel for a minute.
My head has been fried for weeks. My head is fried.
So I'll give the mini version of this, but Bleed, famously team from Kassad's team over in Europe, they've had some questionable player moves, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, this whole project has been, well, I think a disaster, but I mean, some people think it's quite interesting or whatever. But yeah, I mean it.
So some of the people from this team, right? You had Cirque for a little bit on this roster. You've had Lounx, you've had Favin, Hampus, Cypher, Nock, and JiJieHao got brought over from Apex when Apex did their rework internally. Nexa got brought over, and you and I were vaguely convinced they were going to bring Hooksy over just for the memes.
Nexa was really bad on this team, by the way. I don't know what happened to Nexa. He was never this bad. He was never great. Don't get me wrong. Nexa was never a great player, but he was never awful, and he's just become dog shit. This it does just happen sometimes where you hit a bad run of form and you just slide, and you keep sliding till you hit rock bottom, and then maybe you can recover. You see it all the time in all sports, but Counter-Strike, it happens so fast because the Counter-Strike world changes on a month by month basis. Mm-hmm. And Nexa's stock has dropped a ridiculous amount in the last 6 months.
So I would say a week and a half ago, Riot of Riot Games released a statement that said that they were discontinuing Bleed's APAC Valorant spot because Bleed had violated a bunch of the agreement that they had with Riot in the contract.
Yeah.
And actually, our podcast editor said that we should cover this. And I went, why would I ever cover Bleed Valorant? I barely cover Bleed to begin with. We were wrong on this.
Apparently.
Yeah. Coming back to late last week, Kassad comes out and says, yeah, Bleed hasn't paid us for a very long time and owes us a shit pile of money.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere in the $100,000 just on players, and then there's
probably
a prize pool money.
I mean, the players he signed are probably on a decent wage. He signed some big names, and they're probably on solid money. Well,
he tweeted out how much it was. There was it was 130,000 not paid to Apex for the transfer for Nock and JiJieHao, 42,000 not paid to G2 for Nexa, which, by the way, a $42,000 transfer fee for Nexa is quite humorous.
Yeah, I mean it's possible that they paid a chunk of it and not all of it, and that's what. But it's also possible that G2 were just yeah, you can have him for 40k. That's fine.
100,000 in prize money, 15k not to Favin, 15k plus not paid to Cirque, 10k to Valden, 20k to Kassad, and this was a quote tweet of oh yes, there's just some differences that we have had with Kassad. So they're now playing under unpaid, which is the name of their roster on HLTV. Which, by the way, did you see the photos of it with the shirts?
Yeah, it's just a black shirt with unpaid on. Kind of goes hard, honestly.
It goes really hard.
It's one of those I've always really wanted an Outsiders shirt. It's one of the esports merches I've always wanted is just black shirt that says Outsiders on it. Think it goes crazy. I think unpaid is another good one to have.
Unpaid is really good. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this team is now. I mean, let's be very clear. This doesn't change any of what we have said previously about how good this team is. Which, if you don't remember, the answer is
I still don't very good. I don't I've never thought this team was anywhere near worth the money it would cost to build it because there's
apparently
no retail value. Well, quite. But there's they built a team or let Kassad build a team that was going to be expensive to run. Mm-hmm. I sort of wonder if they really thought he wasn't going to spend all this much money, but then surely they talked to him about the budget, so I don't know.
I don't know. It seems so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously just a terrible way to run a business.
I thought we were past the point of esports companies not paying. Because this has been a problem in North America for a while of esports companies not paying contracts and stuff. I've never had an issue with it. I don't think
No,
we've
I haven't,
really
no.
had an issue with it.
No.
But I think both of us can tell you that we know people who have had an issue getting paid in esports before.
Yeah.
And I thought we were past this, but
everywhere I have ever worked for, including NIP, actually, have always paid. I briefly did some work for NIP, and they offered to pay, and because it was so brief, I was like, let's just call it a trial period and not bother, because they basically weren't that happy with what I did. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll just pay you for that, and I'm like, it's fine, don't worry, because it was such a small amount, but they offered to pay, and they're like famously don't pay. But everywhere I've ever worked for has always paid on time and the amount agreed, so I've never had any issues.
All right. Next to our small team makes big move. DRILLAS, which if you don't know who DRILLAS are, it's OniPixel's team that he made for the major, has replaced Asylum for a mutual agreement among all the players who have decided to submit Scenery instead.
Yeah, I mean, this is just blatant cheating. And if I was in charge, they would be kicked out of the RMR.
Yeah, so the reason that Elliot says this is blatant cheating, if you weren't aware, Asylum is an Israeli player, and Scenery is a Kosovoan player, and that means that they are competing in the Asian RMR because Israel counts towards the Asia RMR. They have swapped Scenery and are now a European-focused team, and are still competing in Asia.
They were already a European team. They already had 3 Europeans. It was already a bit ridiculous they were allowed to play. They now have 4 Europeans, and their one Asian player is Israeli. I know in some situations Israel is actually counted as Europe. I know they compete in the European Championship in football.
So I believe it is
in Asia.
For the RMR, it is part of the Middle East regional.
Yeah.
And because it's part of the Middle East regional, that leads into the Asian regional.
Yeah.
And I get that. I'm okay with that because that includes Iraq,
fine.
Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, fine.
So
it is considered European in some situations. It isn't in this situation. But I'm just like, well, Kosovo certainly isn't in Asia. France couldn't. France is miles away from Asia, and the 2 Ukrainians are certainly not Asian. In what world is this team allowed to play in the Asian RMR? It's just a blatant flouting of the rules, and they should be punished for it.
I agree. The only solace I can take is they're not going to get through the Asian RMR.
I hope so.
Let me remind everyone.
There's 3 spots, isn't there?
Hold on, wait. There's a big reminder here for everyone that the RMRs are not taking place in Asia or in Europe. They're all in China. Every team is going to Shanghai.
That is in Asia, for what it's worth.
Well, okay, I meant previously they've taken place in Mongolia or somewhere else, right? All the RMRs are on land in Shanghai because it's hard to get visas into China.
Yeah.
So my only thought process of why they are allowed to do this is we are under a month away from the first game in the Asian RMR.
Yes,
but it's too hard to get a visa.
But do you know who it wouldn't be hard to get a visa for?
Tyloo,
a Chinese team who would be in the Asian RMR instead of a European team who quite obviously shouldn't be there.
I wonder. I'm curious. I'm Googling now. What is the next up?
Onyx Ravens.
I'm sorry, what?
Onyx Ravens were the team who lost to DRILLAS in the Middle East qualifier.
I'm not even talking Middle East. I'm just saying next up in the Asian RMR.
Well, yeah, but they qualified to the Middle East closed qualifier.
Okay,
so like Onyx Ravens would be a fair replacement.
Yeah.
Tyloo would be a fair replacement if visas were in, because it's completely unfair that
it really is.
That they are taking a spot from an Asian team. It's just ridiculous. Like this team, it's a team created for a joke for a start. So it taking a spot is already quite annoying because
this is like telling me that Doc's team, whatever it is.
Yeah, but I think even Doc's team had 3 players from Asia.
Yeah, but it's saying, oh, we're gonna switch out one of our Asian players for Simple because he's not playing in the RMR.
Yeah,
it's not to that degree, obviously, but like
no. But like they have a shot at getting out of this. Like Mongols and FlyQuest should get out. I think there's 3 spots.
There are 3 spots. So you're telling me DRILLAS versus Lin Vision or Rare
Atom. Like Rare Atom always choke.
Or the Talon team.
Hang on. Hang on a second. Have you seen who's on Alter Ego?
Oh
this
my
is
God.
a great
Wait,
team.
this is...
Hang on a second.
Hold the phone. Okay, hold on. Alter Ego, an Asian super team of Bentet, Exogen, who I thought retired after NKT.
I think he did. I think he might just be back.
Dobu, who has played for Atox, which is that second best team in Mongolia. Freeman, formerly of Tyloo fame.
Yeah, Freeman's good as well.
Freeman is really good. And Aidkit, who's just around. I have
no idea who Aidkit is. But
who cares? What is this team?
Freeman being Egg Sign is crazy. Yeah, no, this is our team.
This is our team.
This is our team.
Yo, fuck JiJieHao International.
Oh, also, by the way, I don't know if we can show this on screen. Really cool logo. Cool logo.
That is really cool. I will send this to our editor.
It's like 3 stone heads and then Alter Ego written on it. It's actually a cool logo.
That's sick.
We officially will be supporting Alter Ego over DRILLAS.
Alter Ego is the official team of the Overtime on Inferno podcast.
Yes, right.
There is no monetary compensation needed for either party.
No, this is our team.
You can put it on your jerseys that you are the official team of the Overtime on Inferno podcast.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
All right, let's move on.
These are our guys.
We still have so much more shit to get to.
Yeah.
DRILLAS are bad. Moving on.
Yeah, fuck DRILLAS. Fuck OniPixel.
HLTV came out. They released rating 2.1. I'm not going to go into all the bits about this because there's
people who say get nerfed, basically.
Yeah, basically, rating got updated a little bit, but not enough to bring 3.0, which will do a bunch of other shit.
I'm sure there's another podcast you can listen to if you want to know about HLTV rating 2.1.
So, yes, I know what you're alluding to, but I'm going to still say it anyway. Our good friend Nero of HLTV was on Confirmed the other day to talk about this. Yeah. So
I know Harry's wanted to solve HLTV 2.0 for a while because there's parts of it that have annoyed him for a long, long time. So I'm glad he finally got to do it.
I think 3.0 is the solve because it takes a lot of supposedly it's going to take a lot of the at that moment in time stuff into account.
Yeah.
So, all right. RMRs start in under a month at this point, which is kind of insane.
Yeah. For the last time.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second.
Allegedly.
So RMR start for like the first time in a month, in about a month from now. We have RMR opening matchups. There's none that really jump out to me to start. Like there's plenty of good ones in here.
There was some that I liked. Hang on, let me find them.
I do like the G2 versus NIP to start.
Yeah, that's the one. No matter what the outcome, that's funny.
Yeah, it's a good match regardless. I mean,
G2 are always worth watching. They either like obliterate NIP and that's funny. They lose to NIP and that's funny.
Which is even funnier.
They come close, still funny. Like no matter what happens, it's funny. Like you get to laugh at either G2 or NIP. Wonderful game.
I'm in for that. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. We do get to see Hunden's appearance in a major RMR with Sashi.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. There's one thing I'd like to point out, which is that when you see FaZe versus Cloud9, immediately you're excited, and then you remember how terrible this game will actually be, and you're upset again.
So let me remind you, Cloud9 is really bad right now. We haven't talked about them in a real long time because they have only taken part in Mickey Mouse tournaments and have been bad in the Mickey Mouse tournaments.
Yeah,
they've won a couple open qualifiers. But once they got to the actual tournament, they didn't do super great.
Yeah, it's just like you see FaZe Cloud9 and you're thinking, oh, it's a rematch of the Boston Major final. And it's just like, it's kind of mediocre Russian team versus like the ghost of FaZe. Actually, there was a rumor about FaZe going around. I don't know how true it is that Carrigan and Rain are out after the Major.
That's okay. Interesting. I'm
here. It was something to do, like... It was something like Overdrive posted it on Telegram and then some Brazilians reported it. So it's like real Chinese whisper stuff. But it all makes a lot of sense because Carrigan and Rain are getting older.
I'm jumping back for a moment here. I have found information about the official team of the Overtime Inferno podcast. Their original lineup entering back in since 2019. In 2024, their original lineup did not have Dobu on it. Instead, it had Waste of Ammo on it.
Oh no!
Which truly makes this the official team of the Overtime and Inferno podcast.
My king, waste of ammo, come back. We don't need aid kit.
No, it's Dobu, who is only on loan, so maybe we can get waste of ammo back at a later
I was
point.
actually... Aid kit kind of goes under the radar. It's a good name. Aid kit is a good name. But waste of ammo, my king. We love waste of ammo.
This is truly the official team. We need to get in contact. We will have every player on. I am so in for this. Okay. Last bit of news, and then we will have a quick conversation about what happened with IEM Rio. Yesterday, 2 days ago, Valve came out. Yesterday, 2 days ago, some amount of days ago. Valve came out and dropped a kind of big deal thing. Basically, there's no more RMRs.
Yeah. I mean, fine.
So
but also,
I wrote I wrote our article for today as you're listening to this, tomorrow as we're recording this, for our TLDR edition on this, and I put this in the last bit, but it just kind of sounds like they're removing the name RMR, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they're saying the RMRs removed, the majors expanded to 32 teams, but on the other hand, the first Switch stage still seems to be based on Valve regional rankings.
Yeah, but I think rather than... So the RMRs are you're invited off... It's literally like the top 32 Valve teams in the world just go to or go to Austin, and they just have the major with the top 32 teams, which I kind of hate. Like, I hate... I really don't like inviting off rankings, so I really hate the whole tournament being every team being decided by ranking. There should be some qualifier.
So here's my question, right? How many teams right now are going to the RMRs? I don't have this answer off the top of my head.
But
I think it's 32, isn't it?
It's more than that. I think there's 32 in Europe. There's 8
There's
32 in Europe.
There's an additional
16 in America, 48 plus 8, 56.
So we'll be at about half of what an RMR currently is. Do I care about missing the half of the RMR that wouldn't have made it anyway? No. But on the other hand, I don't particularly... I don't love it. I'm not a big fan.
If you're a team who's on the come up right now, and you can sneak into the... Let's say DRILLAS weren't pieces of shit, right? And they actually snuck in.
There's an example of this. Into the Breach.
Yeah.
In Paris.
Wouldn't even be there. You wouldn't have one of the top 8 teams there. Monty would have been there, but only sort of on timing. Some of the teams, some of the best stories in majors are underdog teams. Right? Fucking Bad News Eagles wouldn't have made any of the majors.
The Gambit Immortals final would have never happened.
I mean, they'd have been there. They all would have been there. But Bad News Eagles were never a top 32 team. But they made the major, and they did well every time, and we just wouldn't have that story. And to me, that's the point of the major.
Would we have gotten Vega Squadron beating NIP?
No, you wouldn't.
I don't think we would.
Because the Vega Squadron would never have had the chance to qualify because they haven't played in enough fucking Elisa Masters S-Poos. It wouldn't matter. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I believe most tournaments should be standalone. I especially believe the major should be standalone because the whole point of the major was always anyone could win it. In theory, you and 4 of your mates could sign up to an open qualifier, beat everyone, go all the way.
I've lost, but I played.
Yeah, of course.
You can
of course, that doesn't actually happen. But part of the joy of the major to me was that anyone could make it. Anyone could make a name for themselves. How many players have we seen at Boomich, for example, who has since won a major, was on fucking QBF or some shit. I was going to say,
think about QBF and Avantgarde.
Yeah.
When Avantgarde made the major finals in Berlin against Astralis, and we found the ascension of James right there.
Yeah.
You don't get that if Avantgarde don't make the major.
Boomich was on the 120th ranked team in the world. His career was made off the fact that he was on this team. Careers are made by making the major. They shouldn't be made by being decent at tier 2 tournaments for a year. I just think these moments are beautiful and they should happen more.
It's also going to mean that teams that have better financial backing, like TSM, who's not a great team, or theoretically bleed, get a lot further in these things because they can afford to go to more and more events than a team of people who are really good but don't have this kind of backing.
Let me say this clearly. Nobody wants to watch TSM more. Nobody wants TSM at the major. Nobody outside of TSM wants to see this team at a major. I promise you. I would rather watch some fucking team I've never heard of with 4 players I've never heard of and one whose name has come up once by accident that I've clicked on.
I'd rather watch Alter Ego than I'd watch TSM.
I'd watch anyone.
Are you going to tell me that Alter Ego would make the major with 32 teams?
No, of course it would. They're still not going to make it. I mean, they're never going to make it. But that's not the point. It's more that teams like Vegas Quadrant, like Windstrike, they come out of nowhere and they do well, and it makes their careers. It changes their lives, and that's. To me, that is the joy of the major. I don't really care if Vitality win the major or not. I cared a lot more about Gamer Legion making the final. I cared a lot more about Bad News Eagles knocking FaZe out. Like, those stories to me are just so much more interesting in the majors. And we're just going to get rid of them because we're like, oh yeah, well, having a qualifier is not fair on bad teams who spend a lot of money like NIP. And fuck them. If you can't win a qualifier to the major, you don't deserve to be there.
I wholeheartedly agree.
32 teams is cool, though.
I have a question following this, but it's not going to be answered till next year, which is, there is a good reason of about 32. My question is, do the extra 8 teams, do they also get stickers? Because that is a big financial deal for the players on those 8 teams.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
I will
note this, that Astralis would have made the last major if it was 32, and I hate that.
You know what? You've radicalized me. We should have 8 teams.
8 teams only.
And I should get to pick them all.
And Alter Ego, number 1 on the list.
Alter
Mongols,
Ego,
number 2 on the list.
Alter Ego, Mongols. We'll figure out the rest. Eternal Fire.
North's back for that.
Yeah, I'm going to just sort of send MSL a DM and just be like, look, can you just get a team together? Kievi's on the bench. Get him.
All right. Last thing we want to talk about today is IEM Rio. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time talking about this because neither of us really watched it. I will note that Na'Vi won this event and have been insanely good.
Na'Vi are just the best team in the world, and it's not particularly close.
Anymore. Yeah. I think a couple of weeks ago
it was close for a bit. I was kind of thinking Vitality might actually be good, and then I was like, oh no, Na'Vi are just better, aren't they?
I think just before Spirit had a collapse, we had this discussion of like Na'Vi, Vitality, and Spirit of I don't know who the best team in the world is on a given day of these 3. The answer is Na'Vi. They're the best team in the world.
Spirit are still like children though. Like they're welcome good.
I'm not saying that they won't.
They're still so young.
But Na'Vi are really fucking good.
Magic's has been on that team for like 4 years, and he's like 15 years old. He's like 19 or something. He's insanely young.
The other bit I want to talk about this is there was news that came out that said that they're basically not going to have IEM Rio next year or for a couple of years. And people online were very annoyed by this. And
I saw a lot of people being very happy.
And then I saw a lot of people saying, yeah, that's a great thing because Brazilian fans only show up for Furia, and it's a dismal event if Furia is not playing.
Like, I love Brazilians. That's it. I love Brazilians. I think they're great. I think the world's a better. I think the Counter-Strike world's a better place when there's a good Brazilian team and there's a good Brazilian event. Unfortunately, there isn't really a good Brazilian team. I'm not counting this Furia one event comeback. And there hasn't really been many good events in Brazil. But when there is, it's great, and I think the world's better for it when there is.
I think in order for Brazilian Counter-Strike to be truly back, we need to have another SK Gaming versus VP football match.
Right.
I think that is the way to get Brazil back.
I think the VP's the tougher bit of that equation, I think.
Well, I'm not saying current VP. I'm not saying old VP. You could pick another team.
You kind of are, though. I think for it to work, it has to be the old VP.
I think the old VP would be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, they're all still around Counter-Strike. bar like Pasha, who's boxing or whatever.
He's a streamer.
Yeah, like Taz is still on the team. Snacks is like actually on the team.
I don't know where Bialy is. Where is Bialy today?
I think I remember seeing something about him, and he's just like he's either a streamer or like a criminal or something. I can't remember what it is. Probably shouldn't say that.
I feel like you've gone to two very
no. There was some shit about Bialy. I can't remember exactly what it was.
All right, we're gonna. I think that's where we should call it end anyway. We are. It's been a busy week. You can find
I've just got on Bialy's Instagram. His last 3 pictures are him with a football at his feet.
There you go.
Him playing World of Warcraft with a cat on his lap, and him holding a fish.
He's having a time in his life, man.
God knows what he's doing.
That's going to be it for us this week. You can find us on Twitter at Logan Rahab, at ESN, at ReTLDR. Production done by James Serpa. Editing done by Mac. We will be back again next week on Wednesday. Wednesday, the new day.
Yes.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye all.